Life is the only way sweeter than black. Love is the only word sweeter than black. Love is the only word sweeter than black. John Blue.
All right, here we are at my apartment in Philadelphia. You can hear all this noise. And as promised, everybody in the cast, except for our Glenda and Dwayne, is here. But they're just like surprised that I'm talking, but I'm really talking, and they're just talking over me. But anyway, I had to do an introduction. This is our unsung.
My character, Unsung, is a 15-year-old girl who grew up in Philly, who is trying to figure out how she can have an education, really, and how she can take care of her brothers, this family that she's made. The libretto describes her as the Harriet Tubman of this railroad, which is a really cool way to think about a young girl sort of driving a movement, what she thinks is a movement that she's building. Me and my brothers want to be in a place where more than one kind of thing can be true. Is that not America, too? Unsung is actually the youngest, or the second youngest. She's their little sister. But for some reason, when it comes to her relationship with the brothers, she's in charge. They trust her. I think she's a precocious young girl. She knows a lot. I get the sense that she's read every book in the library and was hoping to find another library and then couldn't get one, you know? She has a lot to say. She knows a lot about the world, or thinks she knows a lot about the world, and she's not gonna take no for an answer from anyone. And I think somehow she's managed to become the sort of alpha in the family, and they trust her. Her brothers trust her.
For me, it was never a specific opera that made me fall in love with opera. It was actually in my voice lesson that an operatic sound came out of me. And I was probably 19 years old in Phoenix, Arizona, at my first college, Grand Canyon University. But when I first heard this sound come out of me, this powerful thing, I felt like a superhero. Because I could always sing. I sang in church. I was in a Christian boy band where we turned in-sync songs. We turned
that we need to hear about.
I know. Pause. We turned in-sync songs into Christian music, and it was crazy. And people loved it.
John Henry he's one of the 4 Johns that's in this show. You have John Mack, John Little, John Henry, and John Blue. But Henry is the youngest of the brothers. When we first meet him, one of his first lines is, "This is my body. All the ladies want to play with it." So he's this muscular, young, very vibrant character, and he is kind of a player with a lot of swagger. So we notice that right off the bat when we first meet him.
When you see me on stage, I'm giving you all of me. Every moment, whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood, I'm giving you all of me. John Blue is a 16-year-old female to male transgender person living in Philadelphia. And we first encounter John Blue at the very opening of the show. He sings the words, "You are gonna stay a while," and that's really how the show opens. I definitely think that there are challenges and a responsibility as a cisgendered man playing a transgender female to male person. I happen to have 2 transgender friends, and the thing that's really important to me is to make sure that I present and give this role the authenticity that it deserves and the truth and realistic things that are going on for a transgender person in this journey. And of course, I don't know what that journey is like because I don't have that journey, but I do have the journey of being an African-American gay man growing up in America, and I can play off of those challenges and things that I've been through. When I'm portraying roles of like Julius Caesar and I'm getting ready to do Ptolemaio, these people that like are hella old. You know, like they are, sometimes they're real people, sometimes they aren't. And my experience in life is so far from Julius Caesar and Ptolemy, or even, like I did a world premiere even of the first male voice in Wang Ro's piece. This could have been me. Like I said, and I've talked to my camera a couple of days, it could have been me. I was born in 1985, and March 31st, my birthday's next week. And that's why I was able to get everybody to come. But my birthday's next week, and I could have been one of those children.
John Little is a member of the family stand. He is the only Caucasian member of this contingent, and he found himself with this group having gone through the foster care system and having had to be defended by John Henry at some point during that ordeal.
So, here's my perspective on this week. Like the whole week was summarized for me just now at the end of rehearsal when Bill T. Jones made his closing remarks, and he was in the middle of a sentence and he stopped and closed his eyes for literally a minute.
A whole ass minute.
And nobody knew what to say or do. The room was completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop.
The loudest silence.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he opened his eyes and he said, "That was my teachers speaking to me." And so I thought about that moment when I walked by Independence Hall just now on 5th and Market in Philadelphia.
Give us the streets.
Independence was signed. And I thought, it's just like pristine the way that it is maintained. And so why does the city go to such lengths to maintain that historic property? Because it's just bricks, right? It's bricks and mortar, but we maintain it and we respect it because of the ghosts that live there, because of the things that happen there. And I think that our ghosts in this story have just as much to say.
As mentally frustrating and physically frustrating as it may be, hopefully when we get to September and we open, I can look, or I hope we all can look at it like I've never done a new work like this before. And to me, said I'm like on the ground roots of like building a character, like no one else has done this character. I don't have to do like, well, someone so else did it, like do it like so and so, or like like a show where maybe like half the cast has already done it. And you just have to kind of like fit into like with like building it from the grassroots. I think is for me an honor.
My character's name is John Mack. He is the oldest of the brothers and sister. And at the beginning of the opera, he is finding himself explaining his body and how his spirituality is very much a huge part of him. I think because of some backstory with his family circumstances, maybe with some loss in his family. He mentions his dad. I think he tends to be actually maybe more of the brain. I think he needs to be more analytical because I think because his other siblings are a little bit younger, they tend to maybe more lead with their hearts instead of maybe thinking through maybe some of the consequences. I think he kind of looks at the long game as opposed to his siblings, maybe with the exception of Unsung.
Yeah, we're doing an opera about the MOVE bombing, and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." I think the number of lives that it touched in Philadelphia is even wider than the number of lives that it immediately touched. That it was not, the guy said it's kind of like our local 9/11. That's what he said. Because everybody can remember where they were and how they felt when they were watching this footage on the news. And I'm saying that because I think the level of responsibility of us as conduits or people who are carrying the story is so deeply layered. Like Vishwa told me the other day that this could be one of the first operas in the history of the genre composed, written and directed by people of color, by African Americans. So there's that, on top of the fact that we're telling the true history of African Americans, right? On top of the fact that we are originating the roles for this kind of thing. I just feel like we are not just responsible for having a good performance.